Morning everybody, thank you for joining this webinar. I'm Rachel Johnson, I'm a Community Engagement Manager for HS2 and I look after the two West Midlands stations, so Curzon Street Station in Birmingham and Interchange Station, which is in Solihull. I'm just going to start by giving you a bit of an overview of the project and an introduction to the Interchange Station for those that haven't seen all the designs before. So for anybody that's come to the webinar and has not much knowledge of HS2, so it is the new high-speed railway that will link up Britain and release capacity on the existing railway. It's essentially being built in two phases. So phase one is from London to Birmingham. So on this map, it's the dark blue line. And then phase two is goes from Birmingham to Manchester in the west and Leeds in the east. Solihull is in phase one of the scheme, and it features one of the two West Midlands stations. So in the West Midlands, we've got Birmingham Curzon Street Station, which is a terminus in Birmingham near Moore Street Station, and Birmingham Interchange Station, which is in Solihull, in a triangle of land opposite the NEC and Birmingham Airport, the other side of the M42. And I'll explain more detail about how that part of the scheme will work in a minute. So just to give you a bit of an update on HS2, where the project is as a whole. So at the back end of last year, the government ran an independent review into the project called the Oakley Review. This year, we were delighted that the government gave the project the green light, so we will be going ahead. This was followed in April this year by notice to proceed, which was the government giving us permission to give our four main works contractors in this area. Our main works contractor is BBV, and you'll be hearing from them in a moment. We get giving them notice to proceed, which means they can move from what they've been doing, which has been a scheme design, to more detailed design and construction. So that was a major milestone for the project as well. Obviously, you can't do a webinar at the moment, I don't think, without talking about COVID-19. So the position for COVID-19 is as it has pretty much changed everything, but the government were very clear that construction sites could continue where they are able to do so within Public Health England and the government guidelines. All of our contractors reviewed their sites and felt in this area that they were able to do that. So they're being very careful about health and safety, but making sure that social distancing is in place. But we are continuing with construction as much as we possibly can. We have obviously taken the decision to postpone face-to-face engagement, so we are trying to change the way we engage and do things like this, for example, and I will talk to you about how you can contact us and keep in touch with us during this period. We also have community environment and business and local economy funds, which are funds for communities, business communities as well, that are impacted by HS2, and that's run by Groundwork. So if you wanted to find out more information about that, if you Google HS2 Business and Local Economy Funds, you'll find information about that. But we have topped over 100 projects, with 26 of those projects located in the West Midlands, with a total of over 1.2 million of funding in this area. So that's, again, some good news. Just to give you a bit of an overview of where we are with the HS2 Interchange Station, and I'll show you exactly sort of the detail of the station in a moment, but we were granted planning approval for Curzon Street Station in Birmingham in April, which was great. It was a unanimous planning decision by the council. We are awaiting planning approval for Interchange Station and the automated people mover. So those planning applications were submitted to Solihull earlier this year, and we're awaiting a decision on those. We have, in the meantime, received a BREEAM Outstanding Award for Interchange Station, which is a massive positive for the station. So it's the first railway station globally to achieve the BREEAM Outstanding certification, which is a measure of sustainability for new and refurbished buildings, and that puts it in the top 1% of buildings in the UK for its eco-friendly credentials. We'll talk more about supply chain opportunities towards the end of this presentation, but there are the procurement process for the Interchange Station and the automated people mover main works contractors is ongoing, and it will commence in autumn this year, and successful contractors will be appointed around 2022. So there'll undoubtedly be more updates where we can talk to you about that. So just to give you a bit of an update on, just to provide you with a bit more detail on what the interchange station will actually look like. You may have seen some of these images already, but these are some visualisations of interchange station. The station's been designed by Arup, and it's been designed to maximise the views over the Arden landscape, and you can see that sort of trying to take into account that sort of semi-rural setting that it is within. It's been designed to provide a pleasant passenger experience. So, for example, the roof has been designed to let in as much natural daylight as possible, and also to capture rainwater for recycling. And we're trying to make sure that the station is as accessible as possible. So one of the changes that we made from initial design stages to this final design stage has been to separate out a road bridge and a pedestrian bridge, so that that's much more safer and accessible for pedestrians. And the bottom left corner shows the entrance from that pedestrian access at the east of the station. We've also tried to incorporate sort of cycle spaces. So there's 150 cycle parking spaces with room for more if required. And it's also important to say that we're very aware that we're building a station in the middle of this sort of triangle of land, and there are wider proposals for the area. So UGC is the body that is leading on the wider proposals for the area. We work closely with UGC. But if you wanted more understanding of the sort of wider vision for development and regeneration in this area, if you Google Solihull UGC, you'll find their website, and that provides you with a sort of wider vision for the setting around interchange station. So, as I mentioned, the station is situated on the opposite side of the M42 from the NEC and Birmingham Airport and Birmingham International Railway Station, but obviously connections to those locations are pretty critical for the station and for the area. So there will be an automated people mover, which will be a sort of light railway system that will carry people across the M42, across Pentago Lake, Heathsea, and there'll be stops at the NEC, Birmingham Airport and Birmingham International Railway Station. That will have a capacity for 2,100 passengers per hour in each direction, and the services will be every 6 minutes. Obviously, though we're doing less face-to-face engagement through drop-ins and things, we're still very keen that you keep in touch with us if you have questions or anything you want to find out more about. We have a 24-hour, 7 days a week help desk, and that's open all day, every day. And that's the free phone number is there, and I think these slides are being sent out afterwards. We also have an email address for our inquiries team. Those inquiries generally come directly to me, and then I pass them on to the contractor or the relevant person. So please don't hesitate to get in touch if you've got any questions. We do also have local websites, and you can subscribe on our websites to receive updates and works notifications. We have them for each local authority area. So the one for Solihull is HS2 in solihull.co.uk. And then if you go on the in your area link, if you're in Warwickshire or you travel through another neighbouring local authority, register on there as well, and then you'll get updates for that as well. So I'm going to hand over to our contractors. So we have 2 contractors working in the Solihull area at the moment. As I said, the main works contractor for the station will start procurement in autumn, but at the moment LM are actually on the ground doing the enabling works on behalf of HS2, and Fiona will be able to explain a bit more about what that involves. And then Hayden will take over to speak from Balfour BBV VINCI, who are providing the main works in this area, and he'll give you a little bit of an overview of what they're doing. So thank you very much.
Good morning, everybody. Hope you can all hear me. Thank you to the Chambers for welcoming myself on behalf of LM. As Rachel mentioned, we've been working in the area since around 2018, delivering the early works or enabling works on behalf of HS2. So what I'm going to take you through today is where we are at the moment and what the next year looks like of our work in the interchange area specifically. So that's the area surrounding the future HS2 station that Rachel showed you just a moment ago. So just so that we can get our bearings and our position of what that area looks like and where we are, you can see from the map on the screen, LM have a number of compounds in the interchange area, which are highlighted by the blue dots. You can see there we are just off the B4438 near the NEC Northway. In the middle of what we call the triangle, which is bordered by the A45, the M42 and the A452. And we then also have two slightly smaller compounds to facilitate bridge building along the A446. At all these compounds, we have a variety of welfare facilities and also ample car parking, and all of these areas are connected by haul roads on temporary possessed land by HS2. So this enables us, once we're in on site, to stay where we are, work within the land that we have, and not have to keep moving back onto the network, so we minimise disruption. And that's the same as well for catering facilities, etc. Again, making sure that our teams are getting the most productivity out of their day by remaining on site. What you can also see from this map is our location of our piling areas. Essentially, these will be the location of the 4 future highways bridges that LM will be developing on behalf of HS2, which I'll take you through in just a moment. So at the moment, what you can expect to see in the interchange area is lots of activity along the M42, which is visible from the B4438, as well as in that triangle and what used to be the splinter between the A452 and the A446. So what can you expect this year and into 2021? So as I mentioned, LM have been on the ground since 2018, but the reality has been up to this point, a lot of our work has been concentrated on and in that triangle, as I mentioned, a great deal of overnight works and minimal preparation activities such as surveys. What you can expect for the next year onwards until we formally hand over to BBV is seeing us essentially on a day-to-day basis in the interchange area, working to build a future network which is fit for purpose when the future station opens. So to help us communicate what we're doing, we're undertaking 2 main work programmes in the interchange area over the next 2 years. This consists of a structures programme, which will involve the development of a motorway bridge over the M42 and the A446. That commenced last year. We then have another structures programme where we will build 2 bridges, which will in the future form a roundabout in the middle of that HS2 triangle that I mentioned. That commenced this March. And then later on this year, early 2021, we will move on to our highways development scheme, which will involve expanding and improving the current network in this area, as well as developing new routes on HS2 land to connect up the entire network. So what you can see here is an artist impression of what the area's road network will look like when both LM and BBV have concluded their works in the area. So as I mentioned, LM are responsible for a portion of this work to ensure that the future road network is fit for purpose. What you can see on this map, circled in orange, is the new parts of the network which LM will be delivering over the next 2 years. So you can see an extensive change surrounding Birmingham Business Park and the NEC. You can see what we've moved from essentially is, rather than a large island outside the Birmingham Business Park to take you over the M42, you now have a T-junction. You then also have a longer bout, so an extended roundabout with additional lanes of capacity, where the current small roundabout is outside the Holiday Inn NEC. You can then see the location of the 4 bridges that I mentioned. So what we move from when LM have completed their works, along with BBV, is a network whereabouts if you need to get over the M42 from the NEC side, is you'll take the future M42 bridge. You will then go up to a roundabout in what was the middle of that triangle to either head towards the station or back towards and onto the A446 or up towards Quartz Point Business Park. To make sure that we're creating minimal impact while we are delivering this, the majority of our work will take place in out of peak hours. So what to expect up until June 2020? So as Rachel mentioned earlier, HS2 in Solihull is the key place for you to sign up to and encourage your employees and customers to get all the information about HS2 in Solihull. One thing that we do periodically is release a HS2 update, which will give you an overview of what an area will look like over the coming months. So what you can see here is a map that indicates where LM will be working up until June 2020. Now, to minimise disruption, obviously we won't be working in all these highlighted areas all at the same time. We will be phasing work, so we will take a section at a time as we continue to develop our programme. The key works we're going to be undertaking in the next couple of months is concluding our utilities diversion programme, moving into the relocation of key road network assets such as curbs, footpaths, in preparation for developing the realignment of the road network later in the year. To ensure that we minimise disruption, we will maintain access to all buildings in the area. We'll ensure that there's clear signage in place for drivers. We will keep the road network operational. By this, we mean that firstly, we will ensure that we are phasing our works across this area, so we're not overburdening the network, but also the majority of our works will take place under single lane closures. So you will be able to travel, as well as your companies, in both directions along all of this network throughout our works. We also have a commitment to leave the area in a tidy state when works are completed for the day, and this includes us having a sweeper which circulates around the area periodically. Where possible as well, we will make sure that we deliver our works overnight to cause you minimum impact. I'm now going to pass over to my colleague Hayden, who will give you an overview of BBV in the Solihull area and opportunities surrounding their supply chain. Thank you.
Yep, so good morning. Thank you, Fiona. Hopefully you can all hear me. So thank you for making the time to be on the webinar this morning. It's a pleasure to be with you and share a little bit more about BBV in terms of who we are and what we're hoping to achieve while we're working within the Solihull area. So BBV, we are the main works contractor, pardon me, for main works civils contractor for Area North of Phase 1 HS2 route. So we're a 50-50 joint venture, which was formed in 2011 between Balfour, Beatty and VINCI, obviously. And we've worked across a number of projects, most recently with Crossrail, and then also the Smart Motorway programme, including the M6 Smart Motorway Junction 2 to 4 project that I'm sure most of you have travelled down as the works have been ongoing. So for those of you who don't have a knowledge of VINCI, I'm sure a lot of people are aware of Balfour Beatty with it being a UK contractor. However, VINCI, I think it's important to mention that they've got a wealth of high-speed knowledge. So they've most recently completed a project in France called Tours to Bordeaux, which is basically a high-speed rail line of nearly 300 kilometres in distance. So yeah, that experience is there to hopefully take forward with into the HS2. So a little bit more about Balfour Beatty, VINCI, what we say BBV, our works on our project, on the HS2 project, sorry. Our works start in Long Itchington, which is in South Warwickshire. We then skirt the towns and villages of South Warwickshire up into Solihull. Firstly, we come into Berkswell, and then Balsall Common, Hampton in Arden, and then up towards Chelmsley Wood. We then build the Birmingham Spur, which is the line of route taking the HS2 into the centre of Birmingham. And then from the Spur area, we skirt the villages of North Warwickshire areas such as Coleshill, Waterorton and Kingsbury. And then we go up to Staffordshire, and our works finish in Handsacre, which is in Staffordshire too. So yeah, a very, very considerable amount of work, which is, I think it's around about 90 kilometres. So, from a timeline perspective, as Fiona has outlined, early works on the project have been going on for a number of years now. As we move to where we are, the push for us over the next 6 to 8 months will be to get our preparation works ongoing so we can then start main construction work in the beginning of 2021. So just a little bit about works you're likely to start seeing in Solihull. Some of these are outlined below. We will have 2 main compounds, one being in Park Lane, Balsall Common, and then the other just off land in Coleshill Heath Road, which is sort of the Chelmsley Wood Coleshill area. And then we will also look to utilise compounds that LM have built within the interchange station area that Fiona mentioned earlier. We will also look to create our haul roads, access point and plank crossings. We will begin to stockpile material, create drainage, and divert some utilities. And then we will also complete test piling in different locations. And then finally, one that always unfortunately gets the groans, but traffic management. We have to obviously implement that to make sure that our works can be completed safely for both our workforce and you guys as the general public. Okay, so from that point then, 2021 through to around 2024, 2025, you'll see now main works constructions happening. Programming for these works is being finalised at the moment, and we can communicate this once this has been finalised. So in terms of these next few slides, I'm sure that these are the ones that will interest you the most. So our aim at BBV is obviously to start building a supply chain that is capable of delivering obviously the challenging project that it is ahead of us. Obviously, I've outlined the area of route that we're going to be working in. It's a huge area, so we need a big supply chain to help us deliver this. So our vision is quite simply to deliver the right outcomes through our supply chain partnerships, which means ensuring we work with the right suppliers who have the right behaviours. Our vision is to build around the 4 key areas that you can see on the slide, just basically to direct to the strategic goals and visions of the whole programme. Yeah, this links to that. So if we start in the bottom left section, if we can start to develop the right relationships and establish the best team, we can then move forward in terms of building our capability and the supply chain's capability, working with key partners to develop new diverse SMEs and local businesses to work with us, but also recognising the need of investment to develop a supply chain that is fit for the future and future projects that come on board. We can then start to deliver continuous improvement and then focus on the value that we can deliver through this project. Ultimately, there needs to be a recognition that we need to work together to make this project a success, and also deliver to the project to a cost that HS2 have given us, and obviously also on time. We also need to set ourselves up now for the legacy that HS2 want throughout the communities that we're working in. So a big piece of work that we've got to do over the next sort of 6 to 12 months. So more about the opportunities that we have during the project. 2020 to 2021 are big years for the project, and within BBV we are at the start of our sort of intense mobilisation period, which will set us up for successfully moving forward. Key to this success for us is to be able to attract and develop and retain a workforce. As you can see, there are many construction trades needed for the project, but also a vast amount of non-construction opportunities too. In regards to the supply chain opportunities listed on the slide, some of the key opportunities for business, these are some of the key opportunities, for businesses to work with us. And this is, again, only a fraction of what is actually available in terms of the packages. There will also be a lot of smaller packages inside the larger ones listed. Some of these are likely to be procured as frameworks, which we do sort of geographically, which will mean we are working with more than one contractor within the area. And some of these works will be sort of let directly to a first tier subcontractor who will then open up further opportunities. All our opportunities are through a website, what's called Compete For, and we can share this information with you on the next slide, next couple of slides, and this will give you access to all the opportunities with us and all of our first tier suppliers. So yes, please get involved with us using the ways that Matt is hopefully going to talk about a little bit more now, and then we're here as BBV to offer any support that is needed, and we hope to see obviously a lot of local organisations on board with us in the future. So yeah, thank you for your time, and I'll pass you over to Matt.
Hi all, sorry about that. I was just chatting with some people in the comments. It's been really good to engage with you guys. So yeah, my name is Matt Hadlington. I'm the business engagement manager at HS2, working within the community engagement team. And my job is to try and work with local businesses and business groups to try and make sure that our contractors work with local business networks and use local businesses wherever they can. One of our kind of key commitments is to be a good neighbour to the communities that we work within, and that includes business. So it's not just about trying to minimise the impacts, it's about trying to make sure the benefits that this project can bring land in the right places within communities. So we're already working with about 2,000 businesses along the whole route. 2,000 businesses have worked on the project, and just over half of those, as you can see, are what we would class as kind of local businesses. So they're within the counties on the line of route, and we have a target of around 60% to be SMEs, and we're currently at about 70%. So this stuff is kind of really important to us. Using local businesses is really important to us, and it's something, if you're interested in getting involved in the project, that will help you in terms of standing out. So if you're a larger business and you want to tender for some work, thinking about how you could use small businesses is something that's really important to us, HS2 as the client, and we're feeding those requirements and those aspirations down through our supply chain, down through BBV and LM and all of the people we're working with to try and build this railway. So thinking about how you use local businesses yourselves, or if you are a local business, is a really positive thing for us. And it's kind of already happening. So these guys that you can see on the screen now, on the left hand side, Total Reclaims Demolition did a big piece of work for us at Washwood Heath, and they came on board and they kind of met all of the requirements in terms of the tender process, but they also had a really clear idea that of how they were going to use local businesses, and they brought on board Joko Wood Recycling, who are a local business and charity that kind of put people back to work by using wood reclamation. So TRD's kind of bid and their pitch was a really positive one in terms of they had a very clear idea about how they use local business. So they had to be right for the job. There's a reality to that. They need to do the job at the right cost, at the right time, in the right way, safely. But they also had that extra little bit, which is around how they were going to use the local community and try and give back a little bit. And that's really important to us. So opportunities are going to come in many ways, more than just tendering through the compete for process or with BBV or their key development partners. There's going to be opportunities for businesses who are in the area of our compounds to supply things. So there are kind of multiple ways to kind of let us know what you can do. Appreciate I'm rushing through this a little bit, but I want to make sure we have time to do some Q&A. So I think that's really important. So the first thing I would say is to go to compete4/HS2. So that is where all of our opportunities are tendered down through the supply chain. It's a requirement for our tier one contractors to use that platform so that there's transparency in the market. So you'll be able to go there and see what opportunities are live. There's a significant amount already there that are worth looking at, and it's not just in the Birmingham, Solihull, West Midlands area. All the way along the route, you can bid for work, and there's lots of opportunities at the moment. The other place I would suggest you go is to go and register your business at HS2's local business website. That's a really simple form where you can just tell us, me and my team, what we do, and we will then go and represent you and promote your offer and make sure that the contractors working on the project at tier 1, tier 2 level know who you are and what you do. As I say, that bit's really important to us. And then the other place that's useful is Supply Chain School. That's a free resource. You can go and register there. You can do modules that are recognised by Construction Line, by Compete4, by the tender process, by BBV, and by all of our contractors that give you a bit of upskilling opportunity for free. Learn more about EDI policies, learn more about health and safety, and get a qualification at no cost, which will be recognised. A really good, useful resource. So that's it for me. It's, like I say, a really quick run through because I wanted to kind of make sure we have 10 minutes or so for questions. So I'm going to pass back to Sam, and I think we're all going to stay on the line and try and answer some of the questions. There's a few already coming in, So if I just hand over to Sam.
Thanks, Matt. That's wonderful. Yeah, on the Q&A, we will have, there's going to be myself and I'll obviously go through the questions with you, and then we've got Fiona and Hayden who will go and be obviously answering the questions that hopefully our delegates are going to be posing to the chat. As you've seen, as we've been going through the presentations from everybody, some questions have been coming in and they've been answered as we've gone through, and these can be shared following, obviously, again, the webinar that's been recorded, and you'll see all those on there. One question then for that's been posed is, when might there be a physical location that Solihull Chamber of Commerce might be able to share with members and key partners in form of a visit, obviously post-COVID, obviously. Can I hand that over to you guys?
Yeah. So in regards to the locations that we as BBV will have compounds, obviously I've mentioned the one in Coleshill Heath Road, which is sort of Chelmsley Wood, Coleshill area, and also Park Lane in Borstal Common. Now we're in the process of mobilising those compounds now, so within the sort of the next 6 to 8 months they will be being built. Then hopefully after that we'll be able to offer site visits for people to come and have a look around and see what we're doing. So hopefully that answers the question. That's
great, thank you. Is that, I'll just scroll down. Is that speak? Great to give us a hand. Is there any more? I think there's some more questions coming in. Obviously, as we've gone through the presentations, we've had some of the delegates who have typed in regarding their businesses, and hopefully David, who's posed obviously his question whether or not his business would be something, a company that you would engage with. David, hopefully the slides from the presentation today will have given you a bit more information on how you could obviously look into that and find a bit more information about it on that, and see whether that's something you can work with. I'm sure the guys will also look at getting back to you on that as well. Yeah, it sounds like everyone's found the presentation engaging, very informative, which is great. So question from Lee, though, do you have a target for this, or would you consider one? So as well as an engagement with local businesses, which I highly commend, can we have any reassurances that local people will be seriously considered for any vacancies, especially with the current difficult times? And do you have a target for this, or would you consider one? Hiya, Hayden.
Yeah, it said the internet connection had.
Oh, I think I'm back as well. I can on the vacancies. Yeah, we have targets around. There's an awful lot of different kinds of targets within there. I'm not sure about specific local employment targets, but what I can say is, talking to even just the guys at BBV, and I'm sure Hayden can jump in, the kind of local hire numbers are really high in terms of what they're going to need. I think it's across the route, we're looking at around 30,000 people in total that we expect to be on the project. And if I kind of speak openly about it, there are certain things that we're going to need that are really hard to source. So I think there are going to be multiple opportunities. I have to go and check around the actual target specifically for local employment. But I think the reality is what you've got you've got someone like a BBV and these guys who work down to around Leamington Spa, and then below that you've got Eiffage Kia. So you've got the big main works contractors kind of butting up against each other a little bit in terms of where their patches are, and there'll be some competition in terms of trying to get workers in. So I think if you're the right, if you're qualified in the right way and you can work in the right way, there will be opportunities. But there's a lot on the HS2 website around careers and around how to get involved in that, and BBV have their own. I think I put the links in the chat earlier where you can go and read a little bit more on that.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. As you've seen on the chat also, we've had Claire Barker from UGC who has been commenting on the chat. We're working with Claire, as in Solihull Chamber working with Claire, and we're looking at hosting a webinar with UGC fairly soon, as Claire sort of hinted to in the chat there. So again, it just follows on nicely from what we've heard today from Matt, Fiona, Rachel and Hayden, and obviously the work that's taking place in the borough, how they're working with the stakeholders and the partners, and then obviously continue on with the work that UGC are working on with HS2 and other projects as well. So yeah, please keep an eye out for that.
Sorry, I was just going to add to that, if you don't. The good question around the point Claire made. I think the other thing about the project with HS2 is the aspiration it has is, so even if the opportunities don't necessarily result in work for a company, what HS2 can also offer with supply chain school and those kinds of things is the opportunity to kind of upskill your business where you might need it, or where you might just need to understand how to better articulate what you're already doing. And that will put you in a good place to be able to go and work on projects with UGC and other kind of big delivery, big public sector projects. So the other aspiration of HS2 is to try and get businesses that we come into contact with in a place where they can go and do work on other projects too. So I think there's a lot of opportunities across the piece for everybody, across all of the projects in the area. It's exciting for that particular area, definitely.
I think that's great. I think with what obviously everyone's experiencing at the moment with COVID and working from home, and people who aren't fortunate, it's given people time to reflect and also to look at adapt going forward. And I think that your supply chain school is a really good option for businesses to look at and to take on board, where they're looking at adapting and whether, you know, for the future and the way things will be changing. So if there's something free, like anything, like the webinars that we're hosting within the chamber to provide a bit more information and help and support, then we encourage everybody, members and non-members, to take up on that and to register and to find out more about it. So I think that's great. It can only be of benefit to everybody. There's no more Q&A questions coming through, so it sort of just leaves me to say thank you to all our guest speakers today. As I said, everyone's found the webinar very interesting. They've what's been going on, and very informative. My last slide really of the day is just some other upcoming webinars that the Greater Birmingham Chambers of Commerce are hosting. Solihull Chamber, we've got one further webinar this week, which is with Solihull College and University Centre. So we're looking at what education will look like from 2020. Again, something, another sort of sector of importance within the borough. And then later on in May, then we've got our Asian Business Chamber of Commerce hosting a couple of webinars as well. As popped up on the chat, we're doing quite a lot of social media, Greater Birmingham and Solihull Chamber of Commerce. Every Tuesday on Twitter, we have our Solihull Hour. We have over 10,000 followers for that. So if all businesses, would be great if you can come in and share how you've adapted and kept business moving with that. That would be great. And daily, Greater Birmingham have their chamber chats as well on Twitter Hour, with Solihull hosting a Solihull Chamber chat every Friday. So thank you to everybody. Apologies for the noise in the background. And the dog. So thank you to my guest speakers. As mentioned earlier, the webinar has been recorded. So later on in this week, once edited, it will be shared with all the delegates that have taken part in today's webinar, along with the presentations from our guest speakers today. So thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, guest speakers, and we'll see you all soon. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks.